Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone in franchise world. My name is Paul Segreto, and this is Franchise Today. Sorry I missed last week's show as I was in the midst of traveling, and my co-host Stan Friedman certainly had things under control. Thank you, Stan.
Always a pleasure, Paul, and we missed you. It's a little lonely when I get to do it all by myself now.
Well, especially when our guest was a fellow ex-New Yorker, ex-Brooklynite, as you and I are. I don't know if the show could have, stood the test of three chatty Brooklynites, but we're going to find that out when we meet up with Sal from last week's show as we venture into the Big Apple for the upcoming International Franchise Expo in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's almost here, and think about it, Paul. It's going to be the first time in many weeks of us having fun making fun of Bernie Sanders. Everybody in Brooklyn's going to sound the same at the show in Javits Center. Everybody's going to sound like Bernie.
Everybody's going to sound like Bernie, and of course I'll sound like Mr. Trump and say I have the best, the biggest radio show. It's wonderful. It's a great radio show, and it's the biggest and the best and the most entertaining. It is a great entertaining show because after all, I know how to build a radio. Yeah. Anyway, blah blah
yeah,
blah.
It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge.
It's going to be the biggest, the best. Hey, Stan, we have something in common, and it's something new, and you're not even aware of it.
Tell me about it.
We are both going to be on another radio show with Joe Ochio Grasso. I will be on this Sunday along with Tom Portese, and you're coming on, what, the week after?
Yeah, I'm going to be on with Gary Ochgrosso and Gary on his Sunday weekly show in New York. I'm looking forward to it. It's running right up to the IFE, and I think it's the Sunday before, actually. So, yeah, that's going to be a good time. I didn't know you were doing that this coming Sunday. We almost got to tag team then. I'll be on an airplane. Otherwise, I'd have been there with you on Sunday as well.
Yeah, so, I was contacted by Gary yesterday. Matter of fact, his producer just left me a message as we were getting ready to go live here today. Well, anyway, enough about us. What's going on in the world of franchising?
Well, I just had a couple of feel-good things to share this week, Paul, because I'm just in a feel-good kind of mood. So we'll leave the politics and the minimum wage and all that noise to the pundits and the election people. But a couple of things that caught my eye this week. One big story about my old alma mater, Blimpie, and its new ownership is under new ownership. So Quebec fast food company has purchased Scottsdale-based Cold Stone's parent and Blimpie's parent, Kahala Brands, in a $300 million buyout. And this is a Canadian operation now, MTY Food Group, which is a very significant company in Quebec. They own and operate such brands that we've known for years, like Yogan Fruz and TCBY, Extreme Peter, Manchu Wok, Mr. Sub are amongst the already existing brands in their portfolio. Bringing Kahala in is going to bring MTY's holdings to about 5,500 stores under 57 brands, and is expected to generate about $190 million in revenue. Their expansion plans are not just for Canada, but for all of North America as they continue to grow. And they'll be operating about 2,800 stores under 18 brands in the U.S. So that's a big deal. Another story that caught my eye is one that we continue to brag about, you and me, all the time, and that's millennials and the next gen of franchising. I caught something in the Smart Brief this week that came from our friends at BizCom out of Dallas, and they were touting 2 or 3 success stories of millennials in franchising. A 22-year-old who is the youngest franchisee in the Huddle House network, recent graduate of Elliott T. Bowers Honors College at Sam Houston State University, with a major in finance and is clearing the path to the top of the C-suite by owning his business, therefore owning his life, and another very, very proud father of a young entrepreneurial family, young guy that maybe nobody in franchising's ever heard of this young man, 29-year-old Brett Bidwell. But he grew up in franchising watching his father succeed as a very, very well-known president and CEO of the Dwyer Group. Mike Bidwell's son has become a franchisee of the Dwyer Group, and I know Mike's got to be extremely proud of that. Brett now is owning and operating a Mr. Rooter Plumbing of Greater Austin, and I mean, you talk about putting your money where your mouth is.
Sure.
What kind of validation could be any better for the president of the Dwyer Group than to say my 29-year-old son owns and operates one of our franchises? I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, does it?
No, it doesn't. And you know, Stan, along with the Dwyer Group, I'll just add in because of Next Gen as well, John Evans, who's the chairman and CEO up in Canada of Everline Coatings and Services, and I had the pleasure of talking extensively with John at Next Gen and then several phone calls afterwards. Well, guess what? As of yesterday, he was meeting with the Dwyer Group. He posted all over Facebook, spent the morning with the fabulous Dina Dwyer-Owen. Very excited about what's to come, and I wonder if the Dwyer Group is now looking at Everline Coatings and Services, which is a paint striping business up in Canada where commercial buildings are required, get this, are required once a year to stripe their parking lot.
How about that? So you're not telegraphing any kind of a message there, are you, Paul?
Nope. Hey, I'm only repeating what I read on Facebook. So a little bit in between the lines. We'll see what happens. And certainly my hat's off to Dina always. And I wish the best for John and his team. He's a true millennial entrepreneur.
Oh, that's great. I share those well wishes with you. Hey, the last thing I wanted to do was give a shout out to a good friend of mine whose name is Mark Belanger. And Mark is the VP of franchising for Craftworks Restaurants. And I caught a very well written and very, very insightful article that he posted to Fran Social on how franchisees can save time and money when opening new locations. And it's just a really great piece that I wanted to give a shout out to him and congratulate him for writing, and then invite anyone who's interested in reading and learning some of the wisdom that Mark brings to the table to go pull this up on Fran Social. It's how franchisees can save money and time when opening new locations. And that pretty much covers the front of the house for the feel-good front of the house today, Paul.
Oh, that was good. I'm glad we didn't talk about all the stuff that's been going on around franchising and affecting franchising. But, you know, today we're going to talk about something exciting. You know, coming out of winter, where we receive road signs that may caution us to be careful due to ice on the road. But now ice of all flavors consumed in communities across the nation. It's helping communities raise millions of dollars. Well, $35 million and counting. And it's with that I'd like to introduce our special guest today, Tony Lamb, founder and CEO of Kona Ice. Tony, welcome to Franchise Today.
Well, gentlemen, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come on your show. I've listened several times. I've always enjoyed your banter back and forth, and got some good information from your show. So I've really enjoyed it so far. Even today, I was not aware that Kahala had gotten purchased. I always kind of watch that with the Cold Stone, the frozen dessert industry, and the market that I'm in, so to speak, and watching that. Cold Stone obviously went big, and back in the day, and have been interesting since then. So.
Well, that's good stuff. You know, Stan obviously goes way back with Blimpie. I love that Blimpie is, standing the test of time, and I look for a new push with Blimpies up in Canada and throughout the country. I think it'll be great. And yes, certainly you've got to keep your eyes on stuff like that, especially with the way Kona has been growing. But, before we get to growth and stuff, tell us a little bit about yourself, Tony, and how you happened upon, Kona Ice.
Well, it's one of those. I've told the story several times. I moved into a new neighborhood. I was a marketing consultant. I'm running around dealing with different businesses, and controlling their advertising spend and looking at it. I just love that because of the variety of what I did for a living. Had a bad ice cream truck experience. A 72 Chevy van rolls around the corner. My kids are losing their mind, thinking it's the greatest thing in the world. Actually a vehicle that pulls up and dispenses treats, and he dispensed treats. Let me tell you, it was about $20 worth of the most ice-encrusted, freezer-burnt stuff that you can imagine, and I just was laughing. I just remember laughing hard enough to grab a knee that my kids, if he would have stopped, if he would have left, turned around and come back, they would have asked for seconds. And I'm like, this was hilarious. This guy didn't have a shirt on. He's driving a van that just bordered on child predator. I mean, it's just the worst scenario you can imagine. And I'm thinking, and he just got $20 of my money, and my wife and I laughed, and we talked about it, and sharing it with friends, the experience with friends, and going back and forth and seeing this is very common. And I thought, here's an industry that has been such iconic for American culture over the years, and to see it be drugged down and just to be the lowest common denominator to where it was at the point. And I'm sure there's good operators out there, don't get me wrong, but the majority is not quality. And so it became one of these conversations of what if the truck would have been this way, what if it would have been that way, and just that moment of inspiration. And then for a couple years after that, I had a contract out of town where I'm doing a lot of driving, and this just consumed my thoughts. So I like I do anything, I just, I'm looking at the business, and I'm looking at where's the marketing, and where's the aha moment, and where's the proprietariness of what I'm doing, and is it scalable? Is it something that I'm just going to do to get in business with my children? Is it, and all these things played out over time. And it came to the point, guys, where it was just put up or shut up. All right. Am I going to do what I've been thinking about for 2 years, or am I going to continue on, consulting? And I thought, you know what, it's just, I can't find a big enough hole in it. I'm just going to do it. And I just did not sign my new contracts, and everyone thought I was crazy. And I'll tell you this real quick, because this is the pivotal time, and every new entrepreneur goes through this. I build the first truck. I ordered 5 prototypes. I start building. I build the first truck. I'm driving around my neighborhood. It's a little bit of a pretentious neighborhood, and I pull into this cul-de-sac, and and Jim, I'm not going to say his name. He's a great friend of mine. Comes out, and he looks at me, and he's like in disbelief. And he's like, you used to drive a nice car and wear a nice suit. What happened, brother? And by the way, this is 2007, so we're on the front end of this recession. So a lot of things are happening in different people's lives, and he's just got this look of total empathy for me, and he's just so distraught for me, and he's just, hey, there's an opening at my agency. Maybe I can get you on there. And I'm like, man, I'm like $500,000 in on these trucks. I can't take another job. So, but that was the moment, and then things evolved in, and Kona has been great. We started franchising early, just because people were requesting it. I had people. We developed our local markets, and then friends of friends had come in other states, and it just developed early. And then the success, the validation that we talked about earlier of these franchisees was just amazing. So we went full in, and in 2009 we did 50 franchises. So that was, and then we're off to the races. So that was the beginning of Kona.
Let's back up before we get into the franchise side. I want to discover a little bit more about the magic, the secret sauce, if you will, that you've sprinkled all over this. Your recipe is just filled with success in that you've got consumers loving the product, you've got fundraising, you've got all the different pieces and parts on the consumer side that make the make the brand marketable as a franchise. But let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that are differentiators and what bring the consumers to you like magnets.
But I never get a chance to talk about this because I think that is the thing. When we developed the Flavor Wave and we were able to get a patent, a U.S. patent on the Flavor Wave, where kids can come to the side of the truck and create their own concoctions, now you have an interactive experience. And I thought there is something, and I think that was the moment that we decided, hey, this is bigger than just our local, greater Cincinnati market. This is bigger than 10, 15 trucks. This is something that's got bigger legs. I remember talking to some kids one time, and I said, imagine if a truck pulled up and you could put on as much as you want. And they just grinned from ear to ear, and they said, oh, we'd put you out of business. And I just loved that because I was like, they're going to want to be a part of that. And then sourcing the absolute finest flavoring and how we started. Of course, we've done our own flavoring now. We've created our own things. But these differentiating markets. Guys, what I was passionate about as things started taking off was, I've been around my community for 15 years. I've seen all the fundraising. I've seen all the things. I was just so flattered when people would do business with me that I wanted to be able to give back. It's always been a passion of mine as philanthropic. I never thought I could roll that out as a business model. However, the first franchisees that would come in would see what I'm doing. They want to mirror my success. They get right into that understanding that the more that you give to your community, the more that you involve in your community, not as an afterthought, not as purely marketing, but as a way to truly connect with your community. I had this girl, early franchisee, that said, honey, here's what I tell them. Show me where to park and who do I make this check out to? and I thought, wow, that's an oversimplification of what we do, but it's so brilliant in its simplicity. And so that business model of involving yourself in the community. I've read so many articles and I've heard so many people talk about it as an afterthought. And we have got it on the front end. We teach it in our classes, our Kona College. We recruit with it. We add it as our marketing to guys. I remember 3 years ago I stood in front of our group at a Kona convention. By the way, it's all with a K. Everything that we can spell with a K is spelled with a K. So our Kona convention, and I had someone give me the statistics of the franchisees of the applications that all came in, and I said, what is the one common denominator? 82% of the franchisees that were sitting in the room, the common denominator was they wanted to be involved in their communities and give back and partake in their communities. And I thought, the reason we're doing so well in that area is because we've got a good like-mindedness, a good understanding that this is what we are about. And so it's not – can you imagine going into a system and try to talk everybody into giving away 20% of your profits?
I know you don't make a financial performance representation in your offering, but I got to believe that there's some meta message delivered to a potential franchisee who, when they look at your concept and see that you've given back $35 million to communities, there must be some money being made if we can afford to give $35 million back. Come on.
That's it. That's it.
You know what's interesting, Dan? You bring up about not having a financial performance representation, and of course, other franchise friends of the show, Jersey Mike Subs in New Jersey, also doesn't have an item 19, and of course they are very big at giving back. So, that's
and they're not just big at it; they too. I mean, that's Peter Cancro's culture. That's the culture of the company. That's the DNA.
Exactly.
I'm hearing very much the same here.
That's the irony here is there's a company out there called FranchiseGrade.com. They list the 500. They do a pretty and I'm sure you're aware of them. The two franchise systems that are on their top 500 that do not provide an item 19 is Kona Ice and Jersey Mike.
Jersey Mike. Yeah.
And he told me that. I was like, why am I, $2.90 or whatever my number is? Why am I so low? And he goes, because you don't provide them item 19. I said, I have a fixed royalty, so I don't necessarily need. Guys, this is a lot of, again, going back to our culture, is my metric for franchisee is franchisee satisfaction. I mean, think about it. My royalty is fixed. So, and again, all cash business. I don't want to get into massive POSs where I'm just policing. I'm spending so much time policing inventory purchasing and their POS numbers to make sure someone's not trying to pilfer from their 6% or whatever. It was just a fixed royalty that I thought, now when people come to my convention, they speak out boldly about how well they're doing as opposed to, hey, I'm doing better than I'm telling everybody, because there's a certain amount of pilferage in the system. And I'm not, I'm just saying from a standpoint of this is the way we decided to set it up. I look back sometimes and think I'm crazy because I do know some numbers of some of my top franchisees, and I'm like, if I would have done the 6% thing, I would be sitting in a castle right now and not just a corporate office because of the way it has been laid out. However, I do think it's been a great a great accelerator for people's growth. I think people aren't, they're not penalized for doing better. They're excited. Their royalty is fixed. They can put that in their fixed cost, and away they go. And the better they do, the more they don't pay.
I almost feel like, Stan, I'm talking to somebody here today that's been in franchising 25 years. And yet Tony's only been in franchising, a relatively short period of time, including the downturn in the economy, 2008 to 2012. When you started to say, Tony, about 82% writing, of course, Kona and everything is Kona convention and everything's with a K. I think you were going to say 82% of your franchisees' first name started with K. And I'm glad you didn't say that. That would be a little weird, and Kim Kardashian might be your next franchisee. Although that wouldn't be too bad. She's done pretty good.
But make no mistake, it does help your acceptance.
Sure.
So, Tony, let's talk a little bit about how franchisees become successful in your business. In lots of businesses, consumers of a product or a service fall in love with it, find out that the brand is franchised, and they can get into the business, and if they had an appetite for the product, then they certainly might have an even bigger appetite for the brand as an operator. But in a lot of cases, what a franchisor is looking for is a little bit different than the perception of the potential franchisee who enjoys the product or the service as a consumer, but doesn't realize that a day in the life of a franchisee operating in that business might look a lot different, eating sausage and making sausage not necessarily the same. How does that work in your business? Because I'm more than convinced that people aren't just coming to you because they hear the bell ringing. There's passion for your brand. And does that passion translate from the consumer to the owner? And is it an easy thing to identify whether or not that consumer who loves the product and whose family is engrossed in what you do, can they take that a step further more times than not, or is there some kind of a barrier to entry that prevents that from occurring?
Well, great question, because I've been accused of talking people out of Kona Ice, and the people that bring the leads in, and we have hundreds of leads come in monthly, and people that take the calls and go through the process, and it's just an education process. Let's get these prospective people as educated as possible. I think my own Kona, I was at a convention one time. A CMO stood up on stage and said, here's the way our sales side of our franchise system goes. It's very limited information. You get them on the phone and let the brokers close the deal. And I hope I'm not speaking out of school, but my stomach rolled on that conference. And this was a big system that I had a lot of respect for. And I heard those words and I thought, I just do not want to be in that world. I want to have a very informed. It's all about meeting expectations and setting expectations for prospective franchisees. So my own Kona site has more. I think there's probably 50 or 75 testimonials on that site. There's webinars, and bless their hearts, these people that think about coming into Kona, they've got to watch probably 10 hours of me in my basement, at webinar 1 with a Mac computer doing a webinar talking about what I think about the business back in 2009. And so every year or so I do another webinar, and I kind of take us through the system, but I'm revealing things that we're discovering. I'm showing things. I talk about the amount of work that's involved. I always have that question to prospective franchisees: is what's your life look like in 2 years? I mean, are you excited about sweating? Because there's a lot of sweat involved in Kona, and so these people that take the call say, man, if anybody can kill the mood, it's Tony, because people get on the phone, they're excited, they're excited about the Kona business, and then Tony tries to kill the mood, and I'm like, in all fairness, if I can talk them out of it, they were not in it anyway. So I look at it as my job as to make sure I set reasonable expectations. I just don't want people to make an emotional decision to get into business with me. I want them to make an analytical decision and a far thinking decision, because we don't have much turnover. We don't have much failure rate. I mean, according to the numbers that are in the world out there, our failure rate is almost non-existent. Our franchisee satisfaction, FBR, Franchise Business Review, always has us at number 1 or number 2. I think we've been number 2 twice and number 1 twice out of about 400 systems, and that's my metric, guys. So
hey, Paul,
I think
before you jump in with your next question, I just have to piggyback on what Tony is saying, because as he was saying it, I'm looking at it on FBR's website, and what I'm seeing is not just FBR, but for you to reach the ranks you've hit, number 1 franchise entrepreneur 2013, top in franchisee satisfaction, Franchise Business Review, and Franchise Update, number 1 in category for dessert franchises and entrepreneur, and the fastest growing list for the past 5 years. And all of this to say, as you've said on this website, you don't think it's an accident, and neither do I. This is what we look for when we look for sustainable in front of growth, Paul.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're blessed in a lot of ways about how it's put together. I try to go to the conferences. I go to the conferences, and I took my son to the IFA International in D.C. This was back in 6, I think, maybe 5 or 6, and he was 12 at the time, and we were just up there for a couple of days, and he said these wonderful words. And we're walking around, we're investigating, we're talking. I just didn't understand franchising. I just wanted to get a bath in franchising and understood. I'm talking to everyone I can talk to. And so my son, we get back to the hotel, and he looks at me, 12 years old, and he says, so let me get this right, Dad. They sell you a pizza recipe, and you pay them for the rest of your life. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good layman's perspective of it. However, there's some. I always want to be on the other end of that, saying, what can I do to deserve the money that I'm asking my franchisees to pay? And it is infused in my corporate culture at corporate headquarters. I've got it written on my board behind me. What are we bringing to the franchisees this year? What are we doing to make sure that when they get done, they say, man, it's good to be in the house of Kona. It's good to be in this camp because we keep delivering, we keep bringing, and we keep. Now, to some degree, I'm creating my own little spoiled monsters because if I have some franchisees that have been in other systems, and they're like, I've got one of my best franchisees. I say best. One of my most prolific franchisees was in the biggest system out there, and he is just nothing but verbal. We put him on stage one time, and he was talking about the differences. And he went on and on and on about all the differences, but it all comes back to just a mentality of I want this relationship to not be an indentured servant, but to be a partnership. And I know this sounds so cheesy and so salesman-y, but man, this is where I'm coming from. And I we develop product and increase this and tweak this all the time, trying to make it better. And now, guys, you got to understand, again, fixed royalty. So why am I trying to increase my franchisee sales? It doesn't affect my bottom line at all. If my franchisees are at the top of it or at the bottom of it. The only thing that it affects is their happiness and their satisfaction and their expectations. So I think my metrics are right. And I think this passion that we've got for making our franchisees. Let me say this, and I know I'm talking too much, but one of my happiest franchisees is a retired gentleman, a retired couple, 75 maybe, in the Midwest, who gave my father their numbers. And my dad was like choking because their numbers were so low. But they said, "Oh, we love it. It's the greatest thing we've ever done." The kids' face, the smiles that we're having. But we only get our trucks out about 3 or 4 days a week. Now we kind of, because we're older, and I'm like, yeah, I had mixed emotions on that. I'm thinking, well, you're not market utilization. However, I bet you those customers are some of the most happy, satisfied customers there are because of this guy. So, and I'm not jumping up and down because I need his numbers to be higher, because I need my bottom line to be higher. It's fixed.
This is all good. All good. This is Franchise Today, everybody. I'm Stan Friedman, along with my co-host Paul Segreto, and we're talking today with Kona Ice founder and CEO Tony Lamb. And Franchise Today is brought to you by the Franchise Foundry, a business accelerator boasting more than 30 years of experience helping emerging brands bring sustainable growth to their franchise systems. Utilizing a hybrid coaching and consulting approach, the Foundry team fosters the development and deployment of effective short- and long-term solutions for their clients in several key areas, which include franchise management and operations, change management, traditional and digital marketing and technology, relationships and business management, and, of course, franchise recruitment and development. Franchise Foundry also assists franchise brands with raising capital and the exploration of merger and acquisition opportunities. Learn more about their expanding list of clients across various industry segments at franchisefoundry.com. That's www.franchisefoundry.com for Paul Segreto and the Franchise Foundry. Franchise Today is also brought to you by FRM Solutions, where we offer best-in-class CRM and content management software designed specifically for managing franchised relationships. Built in industry-leading Microsoft Dynamics CRM, these solutions are both cloud-based as well as fully accessible from right inside your Outlook inbox. With FRM, you'll spend more time focused on the business of building top and bottom line growth, while FRM assists with effectively managing communications and collaboration with prospective and existing franchisees. Sort, report, and dashboard all of your vital data and empower your team to accelerate franchise sales, streamline store openings, and better manage your processes, workflows, and unit-level performance and compliance. No hassles, no long-term contracts, no excuses, just solutions. FRM Solutions at www.frmsolutions.com.
Stan, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of a word cloud from today's show, and I've got Spoiled Monsters, Salesman, and Kona Convention with Case. All good stuff. All good stuff. We talk about sustainable franchising, and I really mean it when I say I feel like I'm talking with somebody that's been involved in franchising for 20 or 25 years, because everything that's coming out of your mouth, Tony, really goes back to, solid principles of sustainable franchising. And even, looking at the early stage when you've developed not one, not two, but 5 prototypes, and it seemed to me all looking ahead towards, what was going to make money for franchisees. You have your full truck operation. You have a small kiosk-type operation that you're able to take indoors, which obviously must be great in schools. You've now gone to nutritious products to fight all the too much sugar banter that's out there. And it just seems like you're constantly thinking and innovating and moving forward. What gave you that perspective at such an early stage into the business? Because quite frankly, most would come up with the idea, build out a truck, get on the road, perfect the business model, and move forward. And you probably would have been successful. But it seems to me you've really taken it to another level, and I'd like to kind of share some of those thoughts back then to where you are today.
I think you're right in a lot of ways. However, I've seen some people try to do it that way. Build a truck, put it on the road, and then go. And it doesn't work because it is a tough market. You're asking. It's a tough concept in a lot of ways because you're asking people to get outside their box. I don't think anyone strives to be the ice cream truck driver, so I have an inherent. A lot of people get into franchising, and they put their shingle out, and they put that sign out where they've rented, and there's a certain amount of respect that comes immediately because they're a small business owner. And then the opposite of my case is when someone gets a truck, even though the truck looks like Disney World. I mean, it's beautiful, it's interactive, it looks great. There's still a negative connotation to some degree when people get in and drive around and they see their friends and their friends go, "Really? This is where you're going to go?" And so I'm so impassioned by that, and I'm so sensitive to that I really want them to say, because I want everyone to eat their words. And because I get this all the time. People come in and they're in Kona College for the first day. By the way, also with a K. They're in Kona College. We go around. We're introducing everybody. The staff's introducing. We're talking to everybody, and they all stand up and they get to tell their 5-minute story, and they say yes. And all my family thinks I'm crazy. Well, that doesn't happen at a big system, a Subway, a McDonald's. No one stands up at Hamburger University and says, I'm buying a McDonald's, and everyone thinks I'm crazy. No, they think, oh my God, you're the envy of everybody because you're getting in business for yourself and you're going to have this autonomy. So the fact that I fight that a little bit makes me super sensitive to the fact of I want to over deliver. I want to under promise and over deliver everything to where people. You got to understand, mine's a real inexpensive buy-in. I mean, who can get into a franchising for basically $20,000 and some good credit, and be making revenue, within weeks of doing that? That's pretty unusual in the deal. And these trucks that come in, and these people positively cash flow so quickly because, again, the way the model is set up. So. I think a lot of things have come together. I don't think I laid this out in my basement at my house and said this is exactly the way, as I'm in the trucks, as I'm developing the prototypes, as I'm seeing the serve speed, driving the food costs down. When I started, guys, my food cost was about 22%. I've got it below 6% now.
Wow.
Coming out with our own flavoring line, we'll be able to drop prices even further because now we're not going through suppliers. I make zero money on the cups, my paper costs, that I require my franchisees to use because it's branding. And I think it would be disingenuous for me to say, I want you to buy my branded cups because I make $1 million a year when you buy my branded cups. I want you to buy branded cups because this is the business model. Brand it. And so I pass them along at my cost on these paper cups, and we 30-some million cups last year. And so this is it's a mentality that I've had that I'm thinking I'm going to take everybody with me on this journey. I'm not going to rise to the top and look down and say, thanks, everybody. No, we're all going to go to the top on this thing, and we're all going to continue forward. And so that's just it's hard to say, why did this guy do it and this guy not do it. I've always wanted to be a partner, not a dictator.
I want to ask you a question about something that you just prompted a memory of some of the reading that I did learning about the brand. And I read something about the fundraisers, and maybe it was one of your franchisees speaking about how they go back to the school or to the principal with a cutout of a thank you note that looks kind of like the truck, and then that gets posted onto a bulletin board for another week of brand awareness, even after the fact. So there seems to be a multi-dimensional mentality here of not just doing well and doing good, but the marketing and the branding and keeping the brand in front of the consumer for long after the event of the truck passing through and coming down the street. Tell us a little bit about the marketing and how that works on the fundraising.
Oh, it never, and I hate to listen. I understand. I'm not stupid. I do understand the fundraising is a large marketing piece to it. I think it comes off disingenuous to say if you'll give a bunch of money back, you'll make a bunch of money. I think getting into understanding it's the right thing to do. If you walk into a school and you raise $1,000 to walk out with all the $1,000, I think it's much more the Pee Wee football or the Pee Wee baseball. Let me use that as an example. You pull up and the field's empty. I know I've got coaches that say, please don't pull up during the game because my kids are 8 and they will leave the field to come to your truck in the middle of a game. So we have to train that. Don't come up with your music blasting or you'll disturb the whole game. So people come up, they partake in Kona Ice, and you look at the coaches and everybody that have been so gracious to come up and to allow, and I do believe this, it's a privilege to do business with children, and you need to take that responsibility and that privilege that you get. One, your truck's got to be clean and everything's got to be good, but when you have that privilege of doing business with consumers, the fact that you say, hey, I'm going to pay for the uniforms, I'm going to sponsor this, I'm going to give back here, I'm going to do this. It all wraps up. The marketing, and this is what you can't teach, guys. This is what you can't come out there and teach hardcore bottom line business people to give back. It's got to come. They got to come in with that bend, with that lean of they like to give back.
So purpose-driven people clearly would be successful in this business. And while you said earlier that you've got just a really wide cross-section of profiles within the franchise community with 500 plus franchisees, 680 territories, there have to be some common denominators that you've discovered along the way. So I would posit that purpose-driven would be one of them. What else goes into the makeup of a successful franchisee in your business? And then Paul's going to want to circle back and dive a little more deeply into some of the other green aspects and nutritional aspects of the menu and the product and how you go to market.
Yeah, I mean, common denominators of people that come in, and I've got guys that come in that are truck drivers and guys that come in that are walking about from behind a desk, a corporate environment. And I'm more nervous about the guys coming out from behind a corporate desk than I am about the truck drivers, because of the fact they're not used to the physicality of what we do sometimes. They understand the relationship and the networking, and that's important. And maybe the truck driver doesn't understand that as much, but we can teach that and show that, and that works in its own right. But common denominators are I want to say hardworking people, people that understand the connectivity of the truck to the community. You say purpose-driven. I'm just ranting again on purpose-driven. It's just you got to understand, it's just how I'm built. When I get on the phone with prospective, and by the way, I talk to every single franchisee that comes into our business, and we have an hour-long conversation before they ever get the keys to a Kona truck or even get the invite to come to Kona College. It's just part of the process, and that's where they make fun of me for talking people out of it. But I don't. I just want to have that conversation. But, again, across the board, people that are family-driven, when you say purpose-driven, that's the philanthropic aspect. Family-oriented. I've never had someone come in and said, I really don't like children. So I think that's a good comment. You got to love being around kids. You got to love being around that environment. You're going to be in at the little leagues. You're going to be at the schools. You're going to be at the groups, the youth groups, all these kind of different organizations. So you got to love that part of it too. So that's another good common denominator.
You would never think about serving flavored shaved ice as an experience, and yet what you've created in your model is everything towards experience, even towards the squirt bottles on the outside of the truck, so that the kids can put their own flavoring on. Of course, you could have it done at the window too, but you've even taken it a step further on some things that probably aren't seen, but yet also lead to the experience with the franchisees, which you said you want to create that positive experience with franchisees. And the thing I'm pointing towards is that as much as I've seen Kona Ice trucks, and I've said this, as we were preparing for this morning's show about my grandson's Little League. I see the Kona Ice truck there all the time. And I never knew that it was built in a way to reduce a carbon footprint, that there's a solar panel on the top of the roof. I mean, what led you all in that direction? Because that's more to me than the business model. I mean, this goes to the culture of the organization and certainly, the culture that you lead.
Yeah, we had the experience of a soft serve ice cream truck, and I won't name. There's a big brand out there, soft serve ice cream trucks that has been around for a long time, and they have the back third of that truck is a diesel generator, very well built diesel generator. And I had the experience of going in and marketing for a guy that I was doing some big marketing for his other company, and he just had this on the side. He goes, "I can never get this thing making money. Can you look into it?" And so he's employing a part-time mechanic that works on the truck and fills up the ice cream slots and everything. Then he hires a girl to go out and run it. Then he's got a marketing person that's booking the events. And I'm like, ugh, you're over-labored here. The truck is so complex. But the big thing about it was the truck always, you're serving food. It's like when you walk into, I'm going to get in trouble here again. You walk into a gas station and there's a sandwich shop there, and you're hoping not to smell gas as you're eating your foot-long sub. And that's been a tough point to mention. Well, it's the same thing with the soft serve truck that's spewing out diesel fumes the entire time. You guys are, Long Island guys. You've been in Manhattan. Every corner has a soft serve truck, and every corner smells like diesel fumes. And my thing was, I didn't want that. I wanted a cleaner experience, and and then we had mechanical issues, and the truck went down for a little while. And then the truck went down, by the way, for 4 weeks in the middle of summer because we couldn't get a part for this very complicated. And I said, if my Kona truck rolls down a hill and lands on 4 wheels, I want it to still be able to serve. So all those things were built for that. So it was more about a battery-driven, high-efficiency battery-driven, solar panels, even post-consumable cups, all those things, because that's the right thing to do. I mean, you can jump up and down and say, I'm green. Well, then you can argue the fact that I drive everywhere that I go. Your carbon footprint. Well, listen, I know the right thing to do is to be responsible with the decisions I make about the company. And solar panels, charging the batteries, not having a generator on board that spews out the fumes that are running 24 hours a day is the right thing to do, and it's a better decision for us than the paper cups as opposed to the styrofoam. And I can give you good arguments on all that stuff, and I've heard it all. And I get, you get attacked from one side and blessed by the other side. But still, we try to make the decisions that are best for the company and best for the communities that we're in. Real simple.
That's just tremendous. So now I know why that ice cream cone on the back of that other brand has that stupid face in the ice cream. I guess it's the diesel fumes. I remember growing up quite a bit. The diesel fumes getting them high, I guess.
You don't mean that blue and white truck, do you, Paul?
Yes,
no.
The one with
the
music.
With the red letters,
if it gets in my mind, it will never leave me through the end of the day. So let's go on. So, nutritious items. You're very big on nutrition. Give us some thoughts on that before we turn it over to Stan to take us down the home stretch.
Well, we years ago, this is 2010, when business started really taking off, I have a tractor trailer unload 17 skids of pure cane sugar, and I'm looking at it thinking, it's a lot of sugar. It's a lot of sugar. There's got to be a better way. I start working with some food scientists and some people that are here local in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's this great source for foods because of P&G, and a lot of the flavoring companies are here and located in Cincinnati, Givaudan and Wild Flavors. So I start working with these people trying to develop a very non-detectable. And I thought by the way, I thought this was a unicorn. I'm thinking if this is possible, everybody would be doing it. However, I'm just stupid enough to continue down the road. And I said, I'm not trying to take it from 100 calories to 0. I'm trying to just be more responsible with it. Let's get it down. How much can I get it down before I notice a big taste? And some of the most brilliant people that I've had the pleasure of working with, we got it down 40% with a stevia, because I wanted an all-natural sweetener. I didn't want a chlorinated, like a sucralose or they're called chlorinated compounds. I didn't want something that had that negative connotation too. Stevia is this all-natural plant-derived sweetener that I kind of fixated on as I study it and look at it. So we were able to bring the calorie count down 40% with absolutely no discernible difference. So you're not having that real strong aftertaste. We do thousands of taste tests in the local schools around here. The schools love me because I'm like, hey, I've got a taste test. Would you mind if I'd come? They said, oh, come on reward day, because I do it free for them. They're like, come on reward day, and we'll tell the kids they're getting a reward. And I'm over there, it's like, better like this, better like that. I'm the optometrist, better like this, better like that. So we go through it, tirelessly to deal on this thing. So that's reducing the calories. Now, you've got the Healthy Kids Act that the Obama administration had put in for school systems and things like that. Well, our VitaBlend hit that because we were able to reduce the calories and also vitamin fortify the product. So now we hit it's called Smart Snack. We're Smart Snack compliant. Now, here's the big thing. July 1st of 2016, the Smart Snack rules change across the country. The first ingredient has to be fruit. I've been working on this for 3 years, and this has been, I can't tell you the depths that we've gone to in this one, but we have a product now. It went out about 2 weeks ago to 25 of our franchisees. It's called Kona Ice Fruit First. It's made with dehydrated fruit powders that the first ingredient in our product, according to the FDA, is fruit. And so it's meeting that qualification again. It's high in vitamin C, vitamin D. It still has the stevia in it, so it's low in calories, and no discernible taste. Guys, this is the thing that just wakes me up at night, and I'm thinking, why is a lot of people not doing this? Well, I look at the balance book, the balance sheet, and realize, oh, that cost a lot of money to do it. However, again, right thing to do. I think this is where the culture is moving generally overall. I think we're moving towards a more nutrition-minded, calorie-minded. Every other article is about how the evils of sugar. And so I just want to be responsible with that. So it's been a long journey. We've got our Fruit First product that's out. It's fantastic. Our franchisees are raving about it. I've gotten a couple emails already saying, it's fantastic. No customer said a word. We're very happy with it. It's fruit-based and fruit first, and this is where we're going. So I'm passionate. I'm going to continue to work that way for all naturals, to diminish the preservatives, diminish the artificial colorings, things like that. So it's a long journey, but we'll get there. So.
Well, I think you've clearly demonstrated one or two things to me during our short time together this week, and that is that passion is always the next most important ingredient that a franchisor brings to the party when he starts a concept. You've got to bring money first. It takes a small fortune to make a larger one. But if you can't wake up every day with fire in the belly like you've exhibited as a franchisor, it's pretty darn hard to convey the need to a franchisee to do the same. And I can understand why those who have told you that you're talking people out of or trying to talk people out of might think that way, but at the end of the day, I think what you really do is you light people up, and maybe the more you tell them no, the more they want to hear the word yes. But I read that you've actually slowed down, and that you could do a whole lot more than 100 franchisees in a year, but you had a fear of impacting adversely on your culture and on your training. If somebody who's listening to this today wants to be one of those 100 that may be lucky enough to be considered and file an application for your brand, let's spend a few minutes letting them know how to find you and what the process looks like and what they would need to expect coming through the keyhole.
Well, obviously, any of the portals that we use, you go online and do Kona Ice. and search that. You can call 1-800-Kona Ice. And that comes right into and goes right to an inside person. Sean Hickey will take that call. You can get online at onakona.com, OWNAKONA, onakona.com. And by the way, there's a link to off the main site, which is Kona-ice.com. You can get there, but then fill out an online application, and we'll call you within 24 hours. A lot of people want to know immediately, so they call immediately to 1-800-Kona Ice and get that process started. You're right. I think I appreciate you mentioning that. We went up to 142 in 2014, and not that we I think we diminished the experience, but it felt a little rushed. And I thought, we're just so blessed in the fact that we're selling as many as we can build, basically. We backed down last year to 110. This year we're going to do 110 again. I always say 100, but then, you just the pipeline gets full, and so we've shut off the advertising now, and we've kind of closed everything down, and we'll just finish the pipeline. And then we'll develop again for next year. And it's just the model that we have right now. But and by the way, getting online to Own a Kona and looking at the testimonials and reading all the information, and there is a ton of information on there, and that gives people, I think, enough insight to whether they can say, is this what I want to do for a living? 2 years from now, am I going to want to be, the Kona Ice guy, or am I going to want to be doing something else? People that come in and say, I'll run it for 90 days, but then I got to get out of it. I'm like, you're not the guy for me. I want a guy that if it happens that you're going to be in it for 2 years, you're in it for 2 years. Let's understand that. It is what it is. Now, I'm not personally driving a truck these days, but I have no problems jumping in a truck. And by the way, if you ever want to feel good about the brand, go jump in a truck. Drive around and watch kids' reactions when you pull up. It's still the most intoxicating thing you can be a part of. For sure.
I think Stan hit his mute button again, because usually when he gets quiet, that's what happens.
That's what I thought. I said something terribly wrong.
No. A show would not be a show without me going quiet for a few minutes and letting people wonder, Sometimes I just have to play with the heads.
I was
Paul,
going back in my head. What did I say?
I think we're getting close to a wrap here, Paul. Do you want to bring it home?
Yeah, I'll take it home. Tony, this was fantastic. I am certain we could talk another hour easily. I certainly wanted to talk some about your new gaming app, and I think we just opened the door to invite you back on the show sometime in the future, and I certainly look forward to seeing you at franchise events in the future and putting a face to the name and the voice. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be with us today.
Well, guys, again, big fan. I appreciate. I love the guest variety that you bring on. And it seems like it's always just it's not this contrived sales pitch. It's digging in and finding out what's going on in the industry, and even your front talk today and talking about the controversial stuff that's facing us. And you guys delve in there. So I appreciate what you do. I do love the franchising industry. I'm always, it's funny, I came out of the vacuum cleaner, door-to-door vacuum cleaner, and we have this in common when I was in college and even after college. And I used to think, boy, there's a bunch of snakes in this business. And then I thought, the world's just full of snakes. It doesn't matter if it's a vacuum or whatever. So I love the franchise industry, and I'm very, very proud to be involved in it, and hope we do represent well. So
thank you so much. Thanks for being with us. And who knew, Paul, until Tony just let the cat out of the bag. Another little nugget from Stan Friedman's little-known book of little-known facts, that the Electrolux and Power Nozzle were part of my early sales days as well.
Stan, to that point, there's a lot of people in franchising that have those type of experiences, and I want to give a special shout-out to a franchise professional that I like to call a friend, Greg George out of Wilmington, North Carolina. 5 years ago, during the downturn in the economy, Greg found himself delivering pizza on a golf cart in the Wilmington, North Carolina area. And the other day, he was named Entrepreneur of the Year in the greater Wilmington area for his role with Charlie Granger's franchise hot dog, briskets, and barbecue, of which he's a partner and leading the development charge in a very short order. They have several hundred units in development. Shout out to Greg George, from golf cart delivering pizza to Entrepreneur of the Year. That's the American
and a guy who I always see enjoying a fine cigar on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. He's a great guy. Anyway, till next week, Stan, my name is Paul Segreto, wishing you the best, the very best in this great thing we call franchising. And Franchise Today is out.
When you're part of a military family, you understand sacrifice and support. So at American Public University, we honor your dedication by extending our military tuition savings to your extended family. Parents, spouses, legal partners, siblings, and dependents all qualify for APU's preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level programs. American Public University. Value for the whole family. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.